Hey folks! Welcome back to the channel and today's story. OP found out his wife cheated on him with their neighbor's boyfriend after he saw her car in their driveway, then caught them in the act. OP then kicked his wife out and now her life seems to be a wreck. Let's get into today's story. Caught my wife cheating with our neighbor. Almost 2 years ago, I, now 34, caught my wife, female 34, with our neighbor's boyfriend. I was so devastated because I thought she would never do this to me. And it took me a while, but I got over it. But it was clear my kindness was taken for weakness. It makes me feel like you can't be nice to other people these days, especially if you can't be loving to your wife. Me and my wife have been married for 7 years, and I just loved her more and more. She was the nicest person you could meet and would give a homeless person on the street a sandwich if she could. She was genuinely a kind person, and that made me lucky to be with her. My wife was always supportive, even when COVID hit, and we got our hours cut and my job. Then when it had settled down, we started working crazy hours to get caught up. If there was anything I didn't want to do, it was to let her down or disappoint her. I always called her my better half because at the time, that's what she was. I was the one that might cause a problem in the house. And as the woman of the house, she would rail me in sometimes. She had good looks, character, and she was patient. If there's anything I would point out as bad, it was that she was raised in a toxic household. It was more like house full of drama, honestly. My wife's parents would always party and hang out, leaving her older sister, Elena, to take care of them when her sister got older. She started doing the same things. I guess my wife had decided there's no sense in both of them being crazy. It fell apart thanks to our neighbor Tina and her bad excuse for a boyfriend. Vince. I didn't really know Vince, but I was able to meet him at her son's birthday party. He seemed like you always had to point out how much of a man he was when me and my wife attended the party. The thing about Vince, they kind of run me wrong, was one of my other neighbors who talked to him said he was a womanizer. He would brag to them about other women. And one-night stands he would have, and Tina would argue with him about her suspicions. I never really got too involved because Tina was my wife's friend. Plus, I know a few people who went through what she's going through, but she won't seem to leave him, or she'll take him back. I don't know why Tina would take him back if she knew in her heart. Vince always cheats on her. I think it's the fact that she already has a 10-year-old son and she is kind of overweight. It looks like she has low self-esteem. But I thought one day she'd stand up for herself, and just didn't. But after their last fight, it looked like he was being faithful for a long time. We haven't heard anything bad about the relationship. I found out about the affair on an early Friday in the middle of spring. I work on an assembly line, and my wife works at the office of elementary school. Her sister's kids go to my job, was throwing a lunch event, and a big bosses were there. When lunch came, we had hamburgers and hot dogs. After a while, a supervisor thanked us all for the extra hours we put in to get the work cut up and to enjoy the rest of our day. I got confused and asked my coworker if he was going home early. He said I could stay if I want, but he was going home. I never knew this, and this was definitely good news to me, and I ended up leaving to get back home. Getting to go home put me in a really good mood. I honestly didn't know what to do with my day. When driving down my street, I saw my wife's car in Tina's driveway. This confused me because she was supposed to be at work. I know Tina and my wife were supposed to be working on her garden in the backyard, so I thought she took a day off to help. I decided since I had the rest of the day off, I would make good on my promise to help in the garden instead of only it being them and Vince pulling in our driveway. I took off my work clothes and decided to help Tina live down the street from us. So I had just walked down the street to get there. When I had arrived in the driveway, I saw my wife had some flowers in the back, which explained why she drove instead of walking. But it was weird because I didn't see Tina's car. When I went in the back, I didn't see anybody. I went in the sitting area, where the garden was, and I saw Vince's shirt on the end of the chair and my wife's phone was in the dirt where the garden was supposed to be. I assumed they must be in the house. So I had entered through the back door to try and find them. They weren't in the living room or dining room, so I went upstairs. When I went upstairs, I could hear something in Tina's bedroom getting halfway down the hall. That's when I could clearly hear them, and it was obvious what was going on. I ended up leaving very frustrated and angry. I walked back home in both anger and disbelief. There was barely anybody I trusted more than my wife, and I was being cheated on. Am I rage? I knew our marriage was over. When she got home, I planned to end it, and it was definitely a long wait. The first thing I wanted to do was snatch her phone away for evidence of her affair with Vince, and then show the proof to Tina. About 3 hours passed when she finally came in. When she did, I greeted her at the door like nothing was wrong. She asked me why I was home early, and I said we had finished all the work. I asked how her day was, and she lied about being at work, then helping Tina with her garden. After the small talk, I asked her, does she still have the pictures of her sister, Elena's son, at school, and that I wanted to send it to my mom when she pulled out her phone and then opened it. I had snatched it from her hand and made a mad dash to the bathroom. She chased after me screaming, but I made it in to check her text messages while she screamed and cried. I was totally heartbroken by the evidence in the text messages. It seemed purely physical, and she complimented him a lot. She even said she didn't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore, but she liked it. I sent a lot of this to my phone while she was banging on the door, and when I came out, she was begging for her phone back. I told her I caught her and Vince at his house, and I verbally destroyed her. It got to the point that I was in tears. I asked her how she could do this, and she just cried and said, I don't know. I told her I know it's been going on for about 6 months, so I want a better answer than that. She still said she doesn't know, and that it just happened when she was working in the garden with Tina and Vince. I asked her what he said to her, and she cried and refused to give me an answer. She begged me not to tell Tina, but I said I was definitely telling her what happened. I told her if she doesn't want me to tell my sister, she needs to pack her stuff and leave because we were over with. She gathered some stuff and left immediately to her mother's house, and after that, all I could do was suffer this huge loss. The next day, I went to tell Tina about what I saw and show her the text messages. Sitting in her living room, I showed her and she let out a kind of defeated sigh. She thanked me for showing her and said she was going to have a talk with Vince when he gets home. When she said this, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I told her that this was proof that she was right about Vince, but she said again that when he got in, they were going to have a discussion. I asked, does this mean she was going to leave Vince? And she said she wasn't going to stand for this and she was going to let him know it. I thought with the evidence, she was finally going to dump Vince, but I could tell he was going to get away with it again. And that made me angry. I left it alone and just got up and left. Since she didn't have the backbone to leave Vince, I went home angry because I was hoping there would be consequences for him getting caught. After that, there was nothing more to do except to get a divorce. After the divorce, me and my ex-wife sold the house, and we just went our separate ways. I had told our friends and family and sent them the proof because I know that she would be believed if she said I was the bad person. Me and my wife always supported her sister, Elena. So when her sister needed her, she let her move in with her for a while. From what I hear, the two of them are inseparable now, and that's not a good thing. She even put a picture of them on Facebook looking drunk, saying her sister is the only one who has her back. To be honest, it was my brother who got me to write about this situation because he kind of blew my mind recently, talking about her. He said he was worried at first because he didn't like her older sister, and that she might eventually act like her. I think he was right on this because she still admired her sister. Her sister being wild and rebellious didn't help her in the long run, but I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree for sure. Let's see what the comments had to say about this situation. Neurodivergent Co. says such bravery and calmness you possess to be able to walk away and not get violent when you saw one of the most horrific things in your life. To strategically grab the phone and rush to send evidence to your phone to ensure that your story stays the truth and to make sure the divorce is fair. And she doesn't tell any lies to have it sway her way. This takes a huge amount of courage, thought, and self-discipline to not freak out and plan her defense after being attacked by her actions. You took back your control by leaving her, and not just staying in the relationship just because. That's incredible. A lot of the posts I read usually have someone sure of how to leave someone after finding out. But you knew in your heart that you deserve more, and that's really admirable. Good luck on your journey, and I hope the emotional wounds heal, or have healed well. Sign up, Rose says. Glad you divorced her. Now she lives a life of drunkenness. You don't need that kind of drama. Now you find a trustworthy woman after reading this story. Here are my thoughts on the situation. OP, good for you. That you did not tolerate that garbage she put you through and immediately kicked her out, then divorced her. As for the affair partner's wife, I think you should try again to get her to realize that she needs to immediately dump the affair. Partner. You mentioned before that she has low self-esteem and isn't used to making big decisions for herself. Maybe if you gathered a few more people to join you and have them all tell her that she needs to divorce this guy, then she would hopefully muster up enough courage to do it. Sounds like she just needs a support system around her to do so. As for you, continue to live your life and remember that the best revenge is success. Best of luck to you in the future. OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like it, subscribe as well as comment on what your thoughts are about today's story. I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening daycare.